Hello, and welcome to Greet the Week. I am Mona Duncan, your host, and this is a little chat that we have every Monday. And the original thing of coming up with Greet the Week was to change our attitude about the color of Monday from being blue to being, more sunshine. That every day has its worth and value, and to see things differently. It is looking at living in the now and also appreciating everything that comes our way. And today's topic is the tension of boundaries. And in the tension of boundaries, first of all, let's look and see what is a boundary. A boundary is a line, either visible or invisible, that we have set or not set, that could be set to identify a certain situation. Think of a fence. And the fence, maybe around your property or around some property, a fence. And that fence does two things. It not only protects your property, but it also excludes. It does both. Boundaries do both. It protects and it also excludes. And so we also, not only the physical ones, we can have some invisible boundaries, which includes our belief system. It includes whether it's, whatever those boundaries are, whether they're political or religious or anyway, those boundaries kind of define who we are. And so in looking at setting some boundaries, one of the first things to do is to determine who you are or to know yourself. Well, I don't have any slides. I have a note that we're not seeing any slides. So I'm just sharing. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see. We can see you. In the past, you've always had slides. I just was.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I really do appreciate it because, I do usually have slides, but whenever I made slides at home, but I couldn't transfer them to my computer. Okay. So anyway, we're here. I appreciate you. So it's knowing ourselves, and we can only know ourselves by being true to who we are and by building up some stamina. I put this as being the tension of boundaries, and we'll look more at that in just a minute. But it is beginning to look around as to who you really are. And you may start off with, who your parents are, what country you came from, what some of your cultures are. But then looking at the fact of what is true about me. What is true about me? And, I can look, well, I'm Caucasian, I'm the youngest of four. My sibling, and anytime in life we look at who we are now, because although I am the youngest of four, my other siblings are deceased, and it's lonely, and my parents are deceased, and sometimes we begin to see who I am at different stages in our life and get true with us. But then we need to take it a step further and begin to look at our total behavior, which definitely includes our actions and our thoughts and our emotions. And we begin to look at what's the truth about me? Why am I afraid of the dark? What prevents me from speaking up when I have something that I really want to say, a boundary to set or a question to ask? And then as we begin to go on through life, we need to go a little deeper. And why is it so difficult for me to let go of that grudge that I have against so-and-so? Or why am I so shy? Or going a little deeper, why do I just blurt out whatever's on my mind? And getting, as we grow and think about it, and there's some tension there because we may not want to actually acknowledge the fact that, I do have to have the last word, and begin to look at it as, what if I didn't? It's all about questioning yourself, not in a negative connotation as such, but you're looking at, would my life be more smooth if I didn't have to always have the last word? Or if it didn't have to always be about me, if I could just share alike. So I want to share the screen here. And I hope I can't see it, but can you see a picture?
Mhm.
You can't see a picture.
We did for a second.
Oh, it's there for a second. Okay, well, let me share it again. Share and share. And it still didn't come up, did it?
No.
Well, well, I'll show you what the picture's like on my phone. And maybe you can see it enough to get the picture in your mind while I continue talking. Because going with our four wheels, the thoughts we think, the actions we take, the thoughts we think and the actions we take has a lot to do with our feelings. It has a lot to do with that. So, okay, can you see this picture?
Yes.
Okay, this is a resort that I went to, and early in the morning, it's about 6 o'clock, and there's a pond out there, and can you see the fog coming in? So if you would just think about this and look at this, we're going to look at our feelings and thinking about yourself and getting true with who you are. In this setting, are you willing to listen to yourself? Are you willing to support yourself? Even if you see something that is an oh no? Are you willing to encourage yourself? Are you willing to respect yourself, whether you are growing in that comfort level or not? Can you trust yourself? Are you accepting of you wherever you are at whatever time? And if there's anything else going on, maybe a relationship problem, are you willing to negotiate your differences? Keep looking at the picture, our four. And do you feel calm? But in looking at those things and those questions that you've asked yourself about needing to always speak your truth, even though it may offend others, or having the last say, or blurting things out. What about being critical? What about blaming, complaining, the yeah, but excuse? I can't get true with myself because this is the way I am. Only maybe it's not. What about wanting to threaten someone else? They're the ones that need to change, not me. Punishing. So I guess you recognize the fact that those are the connecting and the disconnecting habits. And as we can begin to look at those connecting and disconnecting habits as we're learning to be true to ourselves. So in setting boundaries, it's determining who you really are, and it is speaking up. Although being proactive is preferred, it's the ideal, it's learning to maybe realizing that, oh, I wanted to speak up and say something to someone, but I didn't have the courage at that time. So you can go back later and talk about it. Even if it's a later time to look at it, it's still okay. Whether the issue is addressed at the moment or whether it's addressed post, it's helping the other person to see where you were, where your thinking was, where your emotions was at that particular time, and how if they were kind of out of bounds, how that you could begin to set a boundary and make an adequate apology. And then be firm. In setting boundaries, you want to be firm yet kind. Firmness shows respect for yourself. It's speaking up and saying, once you know who you are, and letting others know that, I will not I will not answer to that name that you called me. It is setting that boundary that, I'm not answering it. If someone just, if they call you, hey, you, or I knew someone one time that had a young son and he always just called him boy. And it just, it seemed like the child would almost cringe every time the dad said that. And anyway, the dad, we talked about it. I didn't, talked about him with him a little bit later. And he made the comment that he was seeing it as a term of endearment. I said, well, talk with your son and see if he sees it as a term of endearment, because I may have misjudged. We just never know what other people are thinking or where they're coming from. I said, but, at least talk it out with him so that you'll both be on the same page. And so in being firm yet kind is setting a boundary for yourself, but it is being kind toward the person that you're setting the boundary for, that, you're not crossing here. And then always challenge how much you influence others and or how much they influence you. To begin to realize whenever we are getting to know ourselves more and more and finding that tension and relieving that tension, that maybe I really am like so-and-so that before I have really griped about them. Do you ever find out that you're becoming more and more like your mother, like your dad, like your sister, like someone that you had, and whenever we look in that mirror and get honest with ourselves, that I have broken those boundaries myself, even though I have complained or blamed it on others. So then take a tip from professionals, and whether it's playing golf or playing basketball or whatever, that is, a professional will see themselves mentally making the putt, making the hoop before they actually get on the course and begin to do that. And so as we can begin to work with that tension prior to the actual engagement, before we actually get there. So in looking at the tension of setting boundaries, back in 1998, I met Beverly LaFont, and we were in a meeting together for 3 days, and we had a lot of time to just work with each other. And she shared with me Falun Dafa, an exercise that she had been doing. And I picked it up then, and I had been doing that from day one. And it's all about the tension. And so I'm just going to kind of show to you the different, what it is in Falun Dafa. It is realizing that we are energy, and we have energy. But if we don't acknowledge that energy and give it the dishes will never get done if we don't get in there and do something. The floor will not be swept. The task will not be taken care of if we don't literally use our total behavior and put those things into actual action rather than just thinking about them. So it is looking at the fact that starting out with tension and thinking of, and kind of make a ball for yourself, and then put your hand out as in getting along with that difficult person, and then just instantly releasing it, and then bringing your hands back together and deliberately putting some tension there. And thinking that even from the tips of the finger and the base of the hand, the palm there, and feeling the tension there, that leaving this open area for truth to slip in, for truth to find a way there. And then reverse it, make the ball in the other direction, and put your hand out that way and your elbow back this way, and begin to think about all those people that I really do resonate with. Yet at the same time, so-and-so really is a little irritating. So then you just relax into that, and you come back with the tension. And there are 8 different steps to it. And it's diving into, and diving into, and then releasing, and then coming back to the tension, that because I've never dived into something that's this deep before. And there's a little tension there, but I want to acknowledge it so that I can always make room for truth to slide in, to slip in, to be that silent voice that's always talking to me, even though I may not be listening. It's that letting us know it's the S with the self with the capital S, as Carl Jung talks about. And then I'm going to stand up, because after the 4, the 8 releases and the tensions and the so forth, the fallen dava, then you are encouraged to stand, squat your knees, and to just stand and put your hands together as though you are, they're not together, but hold them in front of you, and hold them about this distance out, like you're holding a beach ball maybe, and in this direction, and it goes to it reflects up to the third eye, and to the throat, and to the wisdom heart. And you stand like this with the tension for about 3 to 5 minutes. And while you're there, you breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. And it's in that still point when you're taking the breath in, and you hold it for just a couple of seconds, and then the breath out. And in that still point is where that tension is girding and undergirding. And after you've stood there for about at least 1 to up to 5 minutes, then you take the ball and the tension up over your head. And again, hold it for about 3 to 5 minutes. Still in that little squatty. And then bring your hands down outside your ears for hearing, to the one voice, not all the odd voices that come in and argue with us and we with ourselves. And hold it for about 3 to 5 minutes. And then take it down in front of the pelvic area. And as you stand here in that state of tension and allowing the strength of our ancestry, of the great cloud of witnesses, of all the influences, the social medias, of all the things that's been influencing us, and to be undergirded and strengthened as to who we really are and what we know truth to be. And then in setting those boundaries and in learning to set them. I didn't hear you. Yeah, you were.
I'm sorry. I said, would you spell that term for me? I'm not sure if I am understanding exactly what you're saying.
The fallen dafa or tension?
Fallen dafa. Is it fall, F-A-L-L?
No, it's F-A-L-N D-A-F-A, 2 words.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and it's Oriental.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's very interesting.
It's an Oriental.
Uh-huh.
And in looking at boundaries and, and releasing that tension, and as we are fortified internally, we become, well, we just, it's the internal, it's in the spine. It's the, it's the get a spine rather than being, it's speaking up rather than being mealy-mouthed or whatever. And then it's always giving yourself room to grow. Room to grow, room to grow, room to grow. And sometimes we set some erroneous boundaries, and that we begin to have a shield that we hold up, but we hold it up, but it's not really protecting us, because we still have, we can still be shot down, or what's even worse, we might be holding that shield, but there's still, that could be low life that can come in underneath us, that the people that can scam us, those that can, feign love, but they're really just all for themselves, rather than realizing that that you are a person of infinite worth and value. And so sometimes if we can't set these boundaries all on our own, we may need help. And sometimes it's okay to have a heavy that you can place the blame on. Well, I can't do that. My boss would kill me if I did that. Or somebody would, oh no, the world would just come to an end if I did that, or place the blame on someone else. You may want to have them as your cohort. I know my daughter in when she was younger and going out with her friends and doing various things. There was times that she would go and really enjoy it. And there was other times that they would ask her to go and she felt the obligation to, but really didn't want to go for some reason, whether it was doing work or maybe just didn't want to go. She just didn't want to go. So we worked out a code. And the code was, if we were in a group together and they were saying, hey, we've had fun here now, but let's go do something else. And she would come to me. And if she said, Mom, may I go with so-and-so? My answer would be yes. But if she were to come to me and she said, Mom, they want me to go so-and-so, then we were putting the blame on it. And I would say, no, I don't think so this time. So we can work things like that out with one another. If we had an addiction of some kind, or that we are trying to break, sometimes we need a heavy to be the one that comes along and says, are you sure you want that? Are you sure don't you have enough dresses that you don't need to buy this one too? Be the heavy for them. But I do encourage you to help them set those boundaries for you, but do it in a willing spirit and get their cooperation. And sometimes we may have those people that have been saying that stuff all along, but we was in a state of rebellion, and if I want it, I'm going to do it, that we wouldn't heed them. So even if there has been that person in your life that trying to help you set boundaries by nagging, let's change our attitude to the fact that they really are encouraging me, and go back to our restful scene that we had. And so it can begin to, as we stand up to peer pressure of any age, that we can be true to ourselves. And thank you for being here. And we will stop the recording and stay around, and we'll chat with one another.